Hello. In the dear long gone days when people in Britain were proud of Britain and wouldn't dream of doing anything to damage anything particularly British, a huge RAF installation like Brize Norton, which has something like nearly 7,000 people working in it, some military and some civilian, there was no need for a lot of security because everybody was pulling together. This is Britain, after all. Well, that doesn't work now, as can be seen by this bunch of revolutionaries called Palestine Action. What else? They went into Brize Norton. We're not sure how they got in, but it turns out that the fence is 6 foot high and made of wood. Right, I could climb something like that. And these guys were certainly a lot fitter than me, I'm quite sure. All right, this is what they did once they'd got over the fence. They got into this completely deserted, huge airfield, so big that they had to get across it on electric scooters, and they acted as follows. That's red paint they're spraying into the engine. Of course, paint inside a jet engine, not good, but at least you can see it's been done. What if they'd sprayed something in there that wasn't noticeable? And off they go. And before I carry on, I'll tell you that I'm Granniopteryx. Please like this video, share it, might be important, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel. If you want to contribute financially to this channel, you can be absolutely certain that most of the money you put into my account will end up being used for buying fly spray for my horses. This is fly season, and every time fly season comes around, we all buy our fly spray, different brands, spray our horses, and end up with a cloud of flies around us, just as much as if we hadn't put fly spray on. It's like the triumph of hope over experience. Even the ones with DEET, which aren't very good for you, by the way, they're never certain. I got bitten by a horsefly a few years ago, and the bump took about 4 months to go away. So now we ride out just covered in material. The horse has a fly net. I have a mosquito net over my hat, and I have to wear a jacket even in weather like this. So yeah, that's it. You are contributing to me being mobbed by flies, basically. Anyway, let's get on with talking about Royal Air Force planes being mobbed by a bunch of revolutionaries. So it says here, Sir Keir Starmer was warned months ago about security risks at the base, part of which the Telegraph found are only protected by a 6-foot wooden fence. The Prime Minister was criticised on Friday night after it emerged that he defended a protester who broke into an RAF base to set fire to an aircraft when he was a human rights barrister. The grammar on this is absolutely appalling. Appalling. Who wrote this? I mean, it makes it look like the protester who broke into the RAF base was a human rights barrister. Now, the Prime Minister was a human rights barrister. How are you supposed to you see, the worst sin of bad grammar is that it makes people, they have to go back over the sentence to make sense of it. The Prime Minister was criticised on Friday night after it emerged that when he was a human rights barrister, he defended a protester who broke into an RAF base to set fire to an aircraft. That makes more sense. Now, what doesn't make sense is this. When the Prime Minister was a human rights barrister, it was his job to defend idiots who set fire to RAF planes, because that's our law. We are supposed to give everyone a defence. So there is no reason, little as I like Keir Starmer, hypocrite though I know he is, idiot though it's become increasingly obvious that he is, the fact that he was a human rights barrister and defended an lunatic, that was his job. That is not to be criticised. Okay. Whew. That's the problem with the society we have now. It's because, Starmer does it himself all the time. He talked about people who wanted the independent investigation into the, I've got to say, grooming gangs here. Remember, YouTube. He was the one who was saying that people who were asking for an independent investigation were jumping on the far right bandwagon, because that's his lazy, stupid way of thinking. If somebody is demanding something he doesn't like, he just calls them far right, and then he can wipe them from his own consciousness. But what he is actually saying is, it doesn't matter whether they're asking for right or wrong. They're far right, so they're going to be wrong, whatever they're asking for. That is a very typical attitude of the left. And I'm sorry to see the Telegraph talking about this, because that's exactly the same thing. Just because somebody has political beliefs that you find obnoxious, that means that whatever they do, whether it's for the good or the bad, it's always going to be seen as for the bad. I've got quite off the subject now, haven't I? Yvette Cooper has the power to prescribe an organisation if she believes it's concerned in terrorism. Well, it took them a long time enough to say that Hamas was a terrorist organisation, didn't it? Anyway, here, Bryce Norton, relying on the fact that British people will not destroy things that are intended to protect Britain, they had this 6-foot wooden fence and thought nobody would try breaching it. A full security review is underway across British military airfields after protesters managed to get into the RAF Bryce Norton, the iPaper understands. Managed to get into RAF Bryce Norton. It looks like it was an open door for them. I mean, no more managing to get into that than me managing to get into Marks and Spencer's by the looks of things. Palestine Action was started by a young woman called Huda Amouri, who it says here she was a Corbynista and then took to ram raiding factories. Apparently her mother's Iraqi and her father's Palestinian, or the other way round. I don't know which is which. Okay. In 2016, Huda Amouri experienced a political awakening. Her mother told her to join the Labour Party because Corbyn was taking charge. And this is basically the crux of the problem. We have here in this country now people who are not interested in the welfare of Britain. They're interested in issues elsewhere, in this case in the Middle East. And we find no more frank proof of that than this. The guy who became a councillor for Hare Hills and stood up in front of the microphone to make his victory speech with these words.
We will not be silent. We will raise the voice of Gaza. We will raise the voice of Palestine. Allahu Akbar.
This was not a person who was interested in Hare Hills. It was a person who was interested in a fight going on in the Middle East and how many 2,000 miles away, something like that. And unfortunately, it looks like we have quite a few of these people in our country now. They're not interested in the security of Britain. They're just interested in their own foreign political allegiances. And as Palestine Action is prescribed as a terrorist organisation, it means that their assets and money can be seized. Hizb ut-Tahrir was the last organisation which was prescribed. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They can prescribe as many as they want, because we've still got these people in our government. And apparently, now, I've just remembered something. Hang on, there's going to be a cut while I find it. Yeah, here it is. Apparently, there's an organisation in the civil service called the Muslim Network. The Civil Service Muslim Network has suspended its activities pending an investigation after reports that it had hosted events during which speakers had encouraged officials, that's officials in the civil service, to lobby colleagues to change the government's policy on the conflict in Gaza. That is, the Muslim Network was being encouraged by certain activists there to get ministers to change British policy that might not have been good for Britain, but would have been good for the Muslim Ummah. The convener of one of the webinars in December, who the newspaper said could not be named for legal reason but works in the Department of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, described the war in Gaza as a fight between good and evil, implying that Israel was on the side of evil. Well, yeah, it is between good and evil, but in my opinion, that's the other way round. During one event, an official allegedly claimed that the Israel lobby has an insidious influence on British politics. The webinar coached servants on how to lobby and petition senior officials to move towards taking a harder stance against Israel and how to be strategic and smart in avoiding disciplinary action. In other words, change British policy, which you're not supposed to do. Civil service is supposed to be neutral, but you've got to be careful how you do it so you don't get caught. Now, the whole point of this society here in Britain is that we do things that are in Britain's best interests. But unfortunately, we seem to be besieged by people from the inside, people who are not interested in what's in Britain's best interests, but are interested in the best interests of a pan-world religious idea. These young men are getting onto an aeroplane that I hope is safe. Palestine Action actually did us a favour. They let us know that this was happening and nobody's died because of it. Next time, it might not be like that. All right, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.